Hello and welcome to NBTV. It's another Sunday night, and today's topic is about who you should vote for in 2016. I am always going to add a little interesting twist to this particular topic because I'm pretty passionate about the topic. But I don't think it's NBTV's job to necessarily enforce any political views. So we're going to talk about this a little more in detail in just a second. We got Daniel and Trey with us here, and Blake will be joining us in a few minutes. So that shouldn't be a problem. I'm hearing some audio in the background. Somebody's guitar on. All right. So
how about now?
It's fixed now. So whatever happened, it's good now. Anyway, that being said, all right. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. I'm going to kick this off with saying that, obviously it's pretty big right now, the election, what's going on, who you should vote for, a lot of propaganda going around, a lot of media going around. Pretty much I think we all can agree with one particular thing about the election, which is they're both candidates at a time where we realize that has it really boiled down to this. I think we all can agree with that particular perspective. Whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, whether you're liberal, whether you're conservative, it's really unfortunate that you have to vote for the lesser of two evils at this particular time. I think we can all agree with that perspective. So that being said, it isn't MBTV's place to tell you who you should actually vote for. So if you have come here looking for answers, that's done through your own due diligence and your own research. I will tell you this, though. The one thing I want to talk about is to make an informed decision. It's about you becoming informed. And that means you actually take the time to do research from not a biased angle. Because a lot of people who actually are Republican will look at Republican media to further validate their views, almost like a confirmation of bias. And it's true for people who also perceive or align with the liberal or Democrat side. And with that being said, that's leading us to believe that our side is correct, right? So in order to properly analyze something and actually make an informed decision when it comes to voting, I want you guys to realize that it comes to you and understanding the material and aligning with something that you believe is actually a possibility, not just one side. So analyze both areas of material. I read both articles. I look at CNN, I look at Fox. I don't hate either one. They're both biased in their own regard. So I try not to slant my particular perspective based on what the media is telling me. I think it's natural for us who like MBTI and the other typology systems with our intuitive facets to really look behind what the media is saying and kind of yielding a particular result. It yields okay, we see what the media is saying, but what does this really mean? What is this information really applying? Is this information true? Is it not? If it is, what is going on here? What are we looking on beyond the surface? And I think we all naturally do that as people who generally prefer intuition or with developed intuition. With that, because we are obviously in this typology community to further our own understanding of ourselves and how we form biases and conclusions. All right, so, but the answer to the question is who you should really vote for is yourself. And I mean this in the most non-cliche way. You should vote for yourself. What that means is it's a new year coming up. It's a new you. You can't control who actually gets elected. Yes, you should vote. But the reality is you should put your faith and confidence in yourself. That's the key. And that's tonight's message, is really going into that. Is how do you develop yourself in 2017? How do you make your 2017 better than any other year that you've had in your life? What do you need to do differently in 2017 that you haven't done before? What's the next step that you guys need to take to really kick your own butt into gear? What's that one thing that you're missing? Why are you not at your full potential, right? How do you take that next step? And that comes with a lot of different things. All of us deal with conflict. All of us deal with, issues in our life. A lot of us deal with all those issues that we're going through. So it's important that we actually look at how we're handling these issues, right? So I want you guys to fully understand that it's bigger than just you, right? There's a lot of people involved. Not every relationship is going to be successful. Not every encounter is going to be a successful encounter. But if you can change your frame of mind for 1 second and go, what can I gain from this experience? I'm going to talk a little bit about neurolinguistic programming tonight as well, which I haven't really released on the channel yet. As you guys know, I am almost completed with a master practitioner license in neurolinguistic programming. I don't know if you guys do know that or not. I've been kind of on the low about that, but I'm bringing that into fruition to let you guys know that there are mental patterns that form in our mind, basically on our subconscious input. I think it was calculated that we take like 11 million bits of data per second of life. And if we were to convert basically our life experience into data bits, it would be like 11 million bits per second. So it'd be quite an extensive amount of information. Think about every piece of sensory information that we're taking in, all this data is coming in. So there's no possible way that you can perceive everything that's going on at any given moment, whether it's sound, sight, thoughts, noise, whatever it may be, abstract intuition, abstract insights. We're taking in a ton of information. So our mind is focused on things that we tend to hone in on due to whatever reason and due to whatever our biases are or whatever our conditioning has been. But it's important that we understand that ultimately we're taking in a ton of data at any given time, and we're forming subconscious mental maps of what's going on in our experience of the world, right? So what neuro-linguistic programming is it allows you to actively rewire your brain, actively reprogram these mental maps, these subconscious maps that make you feel a certain way, that make you see things a certain way, that make you understand things a certain way, that make you have a particular perspective that you may not like, a particular pattern. And when you dig deep, you find out a lot about yourself. You find out a lot about yourself. And I'll tell you, working with clients, it's been a very rewarding process for me as well, being able to see people's changes, being able to see that people recognizing these mental patterns that are truly blocking them from succeeding. There's a big problem in the MBTI community as well, which is I get a lot of questions with coaching clients. They come to me and they ask me one particular question, two particular questions always up front. They always say, how do you develop X function, right? They always want to know how to develop the function. Well, the reality is functions are not necessarily real yet. Okay, we don't know they even exist. What we do know is that your mind does have mental blueprints. So I think the function exists. That's my personal perspective, but there's really no hard science to prove that they actually exist or not. Now, like I said, my personal bias is I think they do exist. They make sense. Dario and Artie's research points to possible indication that these functions do exist. But we don't know for sure, right? We have no clue. However, like I said, if we change our mind in 2017 and go, you know what? It's time to really focus on what's going on in the mind. It's time to focus on the things that I realize are stopping me, the obstacles that I'm facing in my life, and blow past them. It's time to realize that, I don't have to fall victim. My past does not have to equal my future. The things that I suffered 5 years ago or the things that I'm suffering from today can end today, right? You think that a certain state of mind or a certain state of reference might be, I have to attain X to get happiness. I have to attain Y to get fruitful life. I have to attain, what that is actually a pattern you've created to think that particular thing is necessary to yield this result. So a lot of mind mapping, a lot of stuff going on in the mind that you may not be aware of. And the first thing is we got to create awareness. So when it comes to talking about who you should actually vote for, it's you. Put some investment into yourself. Realize you may actually have a particular issue with the self. That's the key, right? Is understanding that. So I don't know if Blake caught any of this, but welcome to the show, Blake. I'm glad you're on. Glad we have you. If you guys don't know, Blake prefers ESTJ. It's always
the friendly neighborhood ESTJ.
Always the friendly neighborhood ESTJ. We got Daniel, the ENFJ ISTJ, and we got Trey, the ENTJ INFJ. All right. So you guys, of course, everybody, welcome. This Blake's on the show now. So Blake, I'd love having any input at any given time. Of
Sure.
your insight. We were just talking about mind programming and mental mapping. Daniel and I earlier before this call were talking about law of attraction. Okay. And
the secret.
Yes. So we were talking about a lot of that. So a lot of this has to do with mental. Okay. You guys are so involved in what's outside of self. It's time to turn the focus inward a little bit and focus on what's going on with your mind. What state of mind are you in? How is it affecting your life? What patterns are you yielding? And I was talking about how MBTI people tend to think that we have to develop a function like, how do I focus on developing my intuition? But in reality, what we need to focus on is what I've noticed, even working with INFPs who say, my TE sucks, it's not TE that sucks. What it is a life of you being conditioned to be underconfident, a life of you being conditioned to think that you are not logical or to think that you can't use logic, a life of you being conditioned to people to shutting you down or whatever it may be, whatever life obstacles that you run into. That's what it is. So I want you guys to fully understand that that is part of the process and development. And so putting some power and investment in yourself, regardless of what happens with our presidency, okay, regardless of the political thing. And like I said earlier, if you really want to get involved in politics, get involved, read non-biased stuff, read both sides, form your own complete perspective. Don't just jump to one side and think that that side is law. Look at what the intentions are. Look at the parties, look at what's going on, look at the party's commitment to certain things, look at the history, get in depth if you're going to make an informed decision. All right, Blake, do you have anything to add before I go on some other spiel or rant?
No, I didn't show up for the first part, but you pretty much summed it up. You know, focus on your inner self, your personal development. You know, because you can't rely on political figures, political heads to fix your situation. That's just the libertarian in me speaking, though.
Daniel, what do you got? What do you got?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like, you know, I really resonate with what you're saying. And a lot of people, they tend to just gravitate and fixate towards, you know, the elections outwardly. And you know, a lot of people fail to miss that when we really focus on the elections, when we focus on voting for someone, you know, it's like there's this concept, right? Like, just vote for you every day. And like, the idea is like, why can't you be your own president? Why can't you make your own change, you know, in the community that you exist in, and make that difference everywhere you go, and to make it a part of your life to always vote for yourself, and to not just vote and physically vote for the president, because you'll never really see in real time, you know, until maybe a couple of years later, like what they have really impacted or how they've impacted the world. You know, you're going to see in real time what you do, what your individual changes will bring to the life around you, and, you know, personally, and to others. And it's really emphasized that, you know, you live in the moment, and you should really take hold of the decisions you make and the way that you see life, and remember that you have that power to really make your life what you want it to be.
Trey, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I find interesting about Damon specifically is that he, with his Enneagram 8, a lot of his work, he wants to have his own kind of ability where he doesn't have to be subject to any workers around him, or any managers or company owners or anything like that. A lot of his work is to be above that level. So for him, it's important for him to work on himself so that he can actually take care of his situation, so that nobody else has that ability over his situation. So I think that a lot of the issues that are kind of decided on when you're a president, I think that, you know, some of those you have some kind of control over. You have some kind of ability to help, so you can make your situation better. But one thing that I also wanted to state was that when it comes to a lot of the election and everything that we see, it's a lot of drama and a lot of different people saying, "Oh, look what this person just did or just said," or whatever, and pointing fingers a lot. And that's on both sides. And so I think that it's important when we're looking at this election. I've made videos about this before. We can't just look at the surface level and say, "Oh, look what they just said now," because there's so much behind what they've said that you don't know about, that you haven't lived, that it's really hard for you to decide that it's right or wrong. You know what I mean? So when it comes to looking at what someone's actually saying now, we can look at what they're saying now, and we can kind of draw conclusions. But if we look at their entire past, we can kind of get a better understanding as to what they're actually saying when they say that. And even then, we can't fully understand them as an individual, but we can do our best to become informed and understand the individual and the kinds of decisions they'll make when they say things like that. And so I think that it's really important to, you know, look through not only what they're saying now, but the entire past, and kind of try to build a larger picture instead of just getting caught up in what you see every day on the front page.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true, because like when you think about it, there's so many, and I'm not trying to like pinpoint certain like certain age groups, right? But there's a lot of there's certain age groups that I won't point out because we all know these people, where like it's just they're just stuck to the TV and they're glued to creating that change or wanting that change through like the TV, and like they turn on the TV every day and hoping something's going to change in their life, and it's like it really starts with you. You know what I mean?
Thanks, guys, for adding that in there. That's always a good thing that you guys are contributing to. Kind of where I'm going with this, and where I start feeling I'm really passionate about politics. A few people in our chat room are too. So I try not to get into the political side because there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. You know, you can look at things at the surface and you go, okay, here's what's going on a surface level. Here's what we've got. All right, here's some of the things that are going on. I obviously see that Donald Trump said something totally crude. I can obviously see that Hillary is under this issue with emails. There's some things that are fact, and then beyond that, it's people's perspective, people's perceptions, people's propaganda, those type of things. And so when we're looking at these particular things, it's important that we can take an objective standpoint and go, okay, what is the character? I remember having a discussion with somebody recently, somebody who had opposing views than I did. And I actually have civil discussions with a lot of people. They're not argumentative because of the fact that we both understand that this is not an issue to get to a point where we get enraged or outraged. And we actually look for joint solutions. But where this comes from and why two people can get together and look for a joint solution comes from self-development. It comes from personal development. If two people from a totally different viewpoint can find some kind of compromise, then that takes a lot. It takes a lot of work. And I'm not saying that's able to do from everybody, that every situation always has a win-win. That's not the case. Sometimes there are no-win situations in life. And that's where your own mental mapping has to come in. Okay, so how do I deal with no-win situations? And, it's the dignity part. And, Trey and I have had a lot of discussions lately about dignity and being able to project a sense of energy into the world that you desire, whatever that may be, whatever you see yourself as, and whatever you strive to be. Life doesn't have to be as difficult as you make it. I think we've missed a lot of the common paths to achieving a certain result, and we fabricated a lot of extra steps that aren't really necessary. Trey, you look like you might have something to add on to this, so I'm going to let you go ahead.
No, sorry.
Okay, Trey spaced out, and he was thinking about something funny. Daniel.
You know what's really interesting, and going back to the idea of the way that we talked about voting in our views, and the way that we kind of augment ourselves towards like a certain like president. Like we have all these beliefs, right? And it's the same thing kind of with religion. That's a separate story, but you take all these beliefs and you kind of like pull it and channel it into one person, right? Well, we just covered that you should always be kind of building on yourself, right? But you have these two people maybe who are opposing, and it's like what I always find is that for some, it's all not only just beliefs, but it's information as well. And I've had so many not debates, but talks with people that I've worked with and people that I meet or I value their the conversation. And like there's a lot that people don't know, and that there's a lot that I don't know. And I feel like we kind of direct ourselves towards certain key informations about a certain area or like a president or a topic that needs to be addressed. And like we always seem to be, because I guess it's the natural order on both opposing sides, maybe, like there's always this lack of awareness for certain information on a certain topic. And so like when you get past that whole argumentative side to, certain topics or presidents, you really get to see like the full round picture, because it's two opposite sides, right? When you look at it in a holistic kind of sense, there's so many conversations where I've had with Republicans, me not, going or aligning more with being a Republican. I'm more centered, but like the idea is that, whether it's like libertarian or Republican or whatever party you're affiliating with, there's always a sense that you can grasp a different dimension of what you guys are talking about, and the importance and the value in which like what you're really valuing. And it's just really interesting to see that you can see people come together through unity, regardless of a political party, of political standpoint. And that at the end of the day, I try to think in terms of no political party, because we want solutions for the country. We want, we want us to grow, and we want us to grow in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm on alignment with you on that. I think a lot of the, well, at least from what I understand, I want to address something real quick, and then I'm going to jump back to that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the chat about the lesser of two evils statement I made earlier. What this basically means when I said this is that there's no perfect candidate. There's no candidate where I'm like, I align 100%. It's like, God, you got this problem batch, and you've got this problem batch. And then you're like, well, why not an independent candidate? Let me tell you. There has not been a single independent president, as far as like officially independent, since Washington. Okay, so that's really essentially a wasted vote. Now, Andrew Jackson, of course, he was Democrat when he was elected, and then he kind of left the party and went independent. So if you're thinking Andrew Jackson, that's not exactly what happened. But the point being is independent candidates aren't common. That's the point. And if I throw my vote away, then what am I doing? I'm voting for potentially the greater of two evils. And that's not what I want either. So it really is a lesser of two evils thing, because there's no chance in hell that the independent candidates are going to win. So, all right, that being said, back to what I was saying was, Daniel, yes, I am agreeing with a lot of things. I think also politics from American Constitution standpoint is that if we're looking at the Constitution, I'm really disturbed a little bit because of the separation that we have from what the Constitution actually is, right? Do we really understand the Constitution? We add our own bias because the Constitution is written in rather vague language. So you have two different sides from way early when the people who wrote the Constitution were still around, right? You got Hamilton and Jefferson with their disagreements. You've got people who wrote the Constitution don't even understand the Constitution, right? And the thing is, you have Jefferson, who actually had nothing to do with the Constitution. So was his interpretation accurate or not? Right? He wasn't one of the writers of the Constitution.
Right.
So you have that thing. He was actually in Europe during that time. So when the Constitution was actually drafted, Jefferson was gone. Yet he came back and had this war with Hamilton about federalism and anti-federalism. So you have a lot of these things that the way that we're interpreting the Constitution to date is probably not any better than the way they interpreted the Constitution when the people who wrote the Constitution were still around. So it's always been in vague language, and you've got these issues about it where, I'm a big fan of the Constitution, at least what I interpret from it. But there's a lot of issues that are revolved around how we're interpreting it. So the question that goes back into when you start a debate with somebody, set an outcome of the debate. My objective here is to convince you of my views, or my objective here is to have you fully understand my views, not necessarily convince you, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Set an objective, make it civil, right? We live in the 21st century. Never in the history of presidential debate has one president in the middle of the debate go, you know what? You're right. I digress. And I now proclaim myself Democrat because you're 100% correct. Right? It's never happened. But what we got to recognize is that instead of political parties, which I'm opposed to anyway, I don't claim a particular party. I align more Republican than Democrat, but it doesn't mean I am Republican. I don't align with political party typically. That being said, but I am a capitalist. I love capitalism. Huge fan of it. I'm not anti-socialism though. I think it's necessary too. So there's a lot of balance necessary, and there's a lot of things that are necessary. And yes, we can try to make our world ideal, but you got to recognize that there's some things that we shouldn't try to control either, right? If you're not infringing on someone's pursuit of happiness, life, and liberty, then is it really necessary to regulate? These are things that we got to think about. When we wrote the Declaration of Independence, what was our frame of reference? What is our frame of reference now? Has it changed? What kind of new things are we introducing? Right? Is it necessary for us to protect those who don't need protected, in the sense of, hey, their rights are not being infringed, right? So we've got to look at things from this perspective and start being a little more objective about our political positions, instead of being so, hey, I'm right and you're wrong, but instead, okay, this is what I believe. This is what you believe.
It's about learning. It's about learning. It's about learning, like, perception and what people are going through, why they've come to those. It should be a learning experience.
Yeah, when I'm more for Donald Trump than I am for Hillary, but that's because I'm a capitalist. That's me being me, and me being looking after my own interest. But as far as like the whole thing goes, I don't watch Hillary and go, she needs to go to hell. She's horrible. She's a crooked Hillary and all that stupid childish shit. I don't do that. I go, yeah, she is alleged to have committed a crime. So she needs to be investigated, absolutely. But does that mean her entire character is horrible? I don't think so. There's probably some good in there, right? There's probably some stuff in there, and I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I think there's a lot more than what meets the surface, a lot more than what they present to television, a lot more like us four right now. We're presenting a part of us to the YouTube community, our MBTV community, but it doesn't mean this encompasses our entire essence.
Mm-hmm.
I see Blake with thoughts revolving in his mind, so I'm gonna let Blake talk for
Oh, hey, I just like to make facial expressions while you talk so that you can get a good idea of how I'm feeling about it. I think, but there are some things that, you know how you talk about this childish to kind of point out the flaws of a candidate? I feel like that brings awareness though to people, and that, you know, people aren't as perfect as they set themselves up to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. But see, the thing is, there's a difference between attacking someone's, say, character in a childish way, and then just pointing out a flaw, pointing out a problem, right? There's a difference in saying, okay, here's what she did, here's what she didn't, right? And okay, I'm pointing the finger at Trump right now because he's the one that's really playing that card. And I think it's important that you do highlight the flaws. Here's where the problem is. Here's what happened. Here's what the solution was. Did that result in X or Y? No, instead of saying this person is a horrible person, this person is a bad person, and pointing a lot of fingers and recognizing, hey, if it were me, here's what I would have done instead. You guys like what you hear? That's great. But if we look at it that way, you got to realize the political race is also a game to play. And you are appealing to the masses. Am I saying it should be changed? No. I'm talking about from a personal standpoint, how you should approach a particular argumentation. Because from the political side, unless you're running for office, I don't think the way that they're playing the game should be bestowed upon us. Yet we use them as leaders and an example to take into our lives too. Let's blame somebody for being childish. Let's blame somebody for their flaws. Let's blame somebody for how horrible of a person they are. Right? And at the end of the day, we got to remember 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, Donald Trump was having dinner and playing golf with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Right? Before the presidential race. They were friends. Trump donated her to her campaign when she ran against Obama. You know, and he actually said that she was going to do great things in public office. And that all changed. Now, granted, he's obviously done a lot more political research since he's been running. But the point is, he used to be friends. And now that's all kind of gone out the window, unless it's some big act to generate some kind of buzz. I don't know. But whatever the case is, that it used to be different. And the key that I want people to take home is to recognize that, hey, we need to bestow a different approach with the people that we have in our lives versus the way that they're doing things. They're playing the political game. We're playing the relationship game. It's a different game. And that's kind of what I was getting across. But Blake, you were 100% correct. Yes, it's necessary to bring out the flaws. Yes, it's important to highlight the things, especially to the mass population, which typically does not have the capability to critically think. No offense to people who don't critically think.
Yeah, you got to get a couple different approaches if you want to reach the masses. Some people do it through memes, others through short little Snapchat rants.
Right. So
I make my effort.
Wait, how do you do it, Blake?
Oh man, I just like something that's going to really captivate somebody's attention. I'll just either bring it up in conversation or post about it on Snapchat. Just something radical here and there.
Yeah,
I know what he's talking about because I was with him one time. We went to some store, and then out of nowhere, Blake goes, he brings up Trump or something like that, like out of nowhere. And
we were in the middle of the desert, actually.
Out of what?
Were we in Arizona for this?
I think we might have done it there too. I don't know.
You were saying?
But yeah, no, he brought it up or something like that, and then he encouraged the other guy to talk about it, and the other guy started talking about because the other guy was a Hillary supporter. So So we got him to talk about it, and then the guy like was going on and on and on, and then Blake and I were just like looking at each other like, and we just started talking about it. Like we were like, I think the guy stopped talking and he goes, "Wait a minute, are you guys Trump supporters?" And we just started laughing. We laughed because it was just funny to hear him. It was just funny to hear him like, because he thought like we agreed with him. So he was just talking as if we all agreed with him. So it was funny.
Yeah,
You know,
totally, man. Totally.
I'll tell you what kind of supporter I am. I'm an American supporter. And whatever that I feel is closest to what I think is American ideals, that's what I'm going to vote for. I don't support individual people. I support causes. You know, and whoever is a representation of that cause. Just like I don't want people to support me individually. I want MBTV to be supported. It's the cause that we represent, which is
I support the
yeah.
party.
Blake supports MBTV, and he voted for MBTV. He did early voting. So, all right, Daniel, anything to add so far?
No, like as far as what Trey and Blake's story, like I really try to respect people's opinions and their beliefs, because as I was talking earlier with Blake today, like your beliefs ultimately lay the foundation for your own journey, personal growth wise, and like we're only here a short time, and you want to be able to utilize what you know and to grow on that and to create better long lasting experiences and happiness here. And part of that is your beliefs, your moral foundations, and to share the journey with people that not only create that diversity within what you understand and know, but to appreciate everybody's own journey, because we all want Trump or Hillary or whoever X, Y, and Z to run for our own reasons. At the end of the day, we want particular things for this country, and it really comes down to just kind of growing and developing and just wanting to see that in your day-to-day life, and to appreciate everybody else's standpoints, to appreciate everybody else in its entirety. We see all these riots and Trump rallies and Hillary rallies and even Bernie rallies, and people can be so spiked to one side or the other. And the first thing that I think about is first of all, you have nothing better to do but to be extreme, right? And the second thing, does this yield any results to your own growth, or are you just acting out like a 5-year-old child would? That child doesn't know to grow and to learn through that action, but you do. Are you contributing in a way, or are you just wasting your own time, and are you tampering with other people's journey, right? And there's this sense of having a moral responsibility to the people around you, how you affect others. And this is something I always try to, regardless if you're my client or if you're my friend, I hold people to a certain standard to how you affect other people, and I think this kind of ties into the idea that we're talking about.
Yeah, Daniel, I want to add on to what you just said, because part of it I want to really elaborate that I appreciate people's differences. So if they want to act out like a 5-year-old, that's fine, as long as they do it consciously, which means that as long as they're not responding to a stimulus, but they're doing it with free choice, then by all means. If they actually are not acting on default and they're actually working on, let's say, a default mode, right? Which is like, okay, I see, I'm ready for stimulus. Okay, oh, there's stimuli over here. There's a bunch of stimuli. They're all over the place. And somebody does this, then I react without actually thinking or programming something that I actually want, or it's a reaction that I'm going to regret later. That's what my problem is. It's not so much that I actually oppose what you're doing. I oppose the fact that you're not in control of yourself. And if you want to be in control, even if that's your action of choice, like if you were to close your eyes and say, how would you like to act? And you tell me directly and explicitly that you'd like to act like a 5-year-old child, then I'm probably going to say, okay, well, that's exactly what you did. We're good. There's nothing that we need to do, because you're doing exactly what you ideally want to do. Now, I think everybody here in psychology, on the other hand, is really, really interested in becoming the best person they could be. And acting like a 5-year-old doesn't indicate complete growth. So I doubt anybody watching this stream or anybody who comes across this stream is going to be like, Yeah, I prefer to act like a 5-year-old. But if you're doing it consciously, you're not letting your body and your mind run on autopilot, but you're actually taking conscious choice in what you're doing, then that is the best thing that you can do for yourself. And whether it's acting like a 5-year-old child or whether it's acting like a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old person, whatever it is, as long as it's what your ideal self is, what your true self is. You want to be your true self at most times. Right, I get in conflicts all the time with people, and it's probably because I have semi-abrasive personality, and I try not to. I try to avoid it in the sense of not avoiding the conflict, but avoid getting in them in the first place, right? And somehow they come to my attention. I don't feel like it's necessarily something that I can totally prevent. But when I do get into conflict, somebody will say something that will hit like a little kink in my armor, or whatever you want to say, a little chink in the armor, and it kind of gets to me, right? Kind of like, ooh, that kind of stung. Like, that was a good hit. Naturally, I want to fire back, right? I feel that natural impulse. But then I have to pull back and restrain myself and figure out what's the right thing to say. What is the thing that represents me the best, right? And that's the kind of control that we should strive for. And I'm not saying I do a good job. Sometimes I do fire back reactively. And then later I'm like, oh, that wasn't the best action. That wasn't that really doesn't really represent me. You caught me at a weak moment. Whatever it may be, I don't justify it with excuses. I go, that's what happened. It's not going to happen again. Let's fix it. Okay. So it's important that we look at our actions and see if we're operating under autopilot or we're operating willfully and purposely. Because our life, we need to live with purpose. And we need to have purpose. And that's what MBTI is about. MBTI is about helping you guys find purpose, whether it's living with purpose and living on purpose. Okay, so making your life fulfilling, and acting on autopilot isn't fulfilling because you're going to do a lot of things that are, like I talked about in the beginning of this webinar, a lot of things that you guys didn't want to do, right? A lot of autonomic behavior that's just, it's not you, it's not your dream, it's not your desire, it's you reacting to those blueprints which have been formed from that overload of information and input into your brain, which has mapped out patterns you don't want in your life. These patterns are controlling you. Instead, you should be learning to control or rewire or reroute the patterns that are affecting you on a day-to-day basis. You have to see life as a purposeful adventure versus something that you're just operating on autopilot. And that's my biggest concern. So, Daniel, I'm sure you got a lot to add to that. So I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Man, that was a lot. That was I need a minute to process that. What would you say your biggest key point there was? Can you summarize it for everybody?
Well, I think the key point is, let's just not act on autopilot. Let's live purposefully. Let's live on purpose. Let's take control.
Yeah, like a lot of it is about living in the moment and, tying it to politics and beliefs. And, a lot of this, it should be, a lot of it is set to autopilot. There's actually a study where it was actually, I think it was on Republicans, actually, right? People who I think voted or want Donald Trump to be elected. There's some article I read about some study where there's a lot of people who are very reactive. There's people who are Republicans have this very reactive, opposed to, I guess, Democratic for whatever reason. But there's the idea is what I'm really trying to get at, of having like a really reactive kind of mindset. And like you said, kind of going off of from fear, and it's based off of fear, right? So it's like somebody disagrees with you and you're like instinctually in a different mode, right? You're just reactive. You're not taking in anymore. You're not learning. And this happens regardless when you argue with somebody. But the idea is that when you talk about politics, there can be extremism, but when you look at it in the present moment, it's like, okay, great. This person either agrees with me or disagrees with you, but regardless, it's about learning from this to see that maybe my mindset needs to be a little bit changed. Maybe there's something to grow from this experience. I wonder what this person has gone through, and as a result, how am I going to become a better person for myself and for others from this kind of experience? And a lot of people kind of just go right over this kind of philosophy, and they go, well, you know what? You don't vote. You're not voting for my guy or this guy. And, you're now the enemy. And the idea is that we're not the enemy. It really should be like a metaphor, right? Like if there was a round table for everybody in the world to kind of sit at, right? Imagine this huge table where 7 billion people sat at this round table, and we just all sat there and talked about, what we thought was best for the world, not just the states, but for the world in general, and to just go off of that. And the idea is that, we separate ourselves through our beliefs, when we approach politics through this, this kind of one-sided dimensional way of just wanting one, political figure over the other. It's really what Damon was talking about. It's really agreeing with the premise, agreeing with the cause, agreeing what's going to elevate the world and in a better direction for humanity, right? And that whatever doesn't align with growing for humanity, that should be discarded, and it should be debated with, right? Because what if, you're not objectively seeing this, or, better yet, what if the better objectivity of a certain topic is the result of a whole bunch of people talking about, and with different dimensions of different experiences with that idea, right? That's how we really come to conclusions and we create action. It's really through diversity in thought, not through same experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I definitely want to contribute to that too, because there's something about, let me address this question real quick. X Ranga Man X4 says, so if you're in control, but what are you doing? But you're doing something ridiculous. That's okay. What? Yes, this is called America, and you have the freedom to do what you want as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of other people. So if it's a freedom of speech and you're not obstructing any laws or ordinances or whatever it may be, you can do whatever the hell you want, as long as it's not infringing on the rights of other people. Remember, if you obstruct other people's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's where it's a violation. But if you want to act like an idiot, that's on you. I prefer that people grow up and be mature, but I also recognize that balance is needed in the force. And you have to have people who do act like idiots. It's just part of society in general. And so if we
and that's how we learn, because because those people exist, we're learning from them. We're learning from what not to do. We're learning how to move forward and to gain that self-control.
Yeah, and I really do hope that these people do come around and get a little more perspective. And
it's all a journey.
I don't judge them for it, though. The one thing I can say I can pat myself on the back, is that I've done so many things wrong in my life, morally wrong, ethically wrong, that I consider wrong. I've made so many mistakes in my life. I've done so many things that I regret, and I don't it doesn't torture me. It doesn't torment me. I just wish I didn't do them. And I've done these things with sadness, looking back and going, wow, it's all been part of a learning lesson. But I've done so much that it's not my position or place to really judge anyone for whatever they may do. I don't think it's my place. So I don't really care what you've done in your past. I don't really care if you think you're a horrible person, because you're not. At the end of the day, you're really not. No matter how much you hate me, no matter how much we might conflict with each other, the idea is that I know that there's inherent good in you, and there's inherent value that I can't place a metric on. And sometimes, yes, it may not be to where you and I will communicate because we just can't get along. But at the end of the day, I recognize that. And it's not my place to judge you for a particular perspective or crime or non-crime, but it's something that I would consider immoral or unethical.
It's about being a better you, at the end of the day, right? Like, we hold, as a society, right, we hold ourselves so accountable to what we've done in the past, to who we are now, but we never take a look at how we want to change ourselves now. And the idea is we don't idolize and model off of a behavior where it's like, I want to be better, and that, to get that encouragement, amongst peers. And, we have a very kind of negative kind of outlook when it comes to, personal growth, because right now, the way that our society looks at growth, it's really like achievement based almost. And that the idea, it's that there's this like plus and minus window where it's like you're either doing better than somebody, or somebody's doing better than you, or somebody's just staying exactly where they are. And like, there's just subgroups within these mindsets. And, we take a look at really wanting to further the country and the world. It's all a mindset game. If it's a mindset game on an individual level, if a client's having a mindset issue, and it's just a matter of just seeing something differently, that can change your whole life. Mm-hmm. And on a collective individual level, this really needs to be emphasized, because right now in the States, it's really this mindset of, oh, this person's doing better than me. Well, then I'm going to talk crap about that person. Or this person's doing worse than me. Let's talk about that person. How about we just talk about what's going to help each other grow as a community, or the self, Let's help each other move forward to get ourselves out of our funks and what we go through personally, and strive to really create that change in our community, and eventually to aggrandize that into the country on a country scale.
Wow. All right. Yeah, and
I just want to point out something real quick. As Daniel was talking, there was a huge earthquake that just happened, and the whole building was just shaking. So,
Blake,
you were speaking some truth, man.
When you have that supreme presence too, so truth mixed with Blake's presence, it shakes the ground. Right? Groundbreaking stuff, Daniel.
Yeah, that was mine.
Was it groundbreaking? I can't tell because the audience isn't clapping because it's a live chat. Hopefully one day.
Well,
You can't hear the claps?
I can hear it. I can hear the snaps.
Well, Janelle says, Daniel, thanks for showing us the world. So, Daniel, you got some good feedback, and I think Janelle was clapping for you.
Yep. More claps.
But, great. So, guys, basically the take home here is don't get caught in an earthquake, and make sure you really, really focus on, yourself, and invest in yourself for this next year. Let's make a difference. I want you
Power of positivity.
Yeah, positive thinking, and more importantly, humility. Stop judging and condemning other people, because everyone's on their own journey. And, everybody's, and yeah, you may be a criminal. You may do things that you regret. And sometimes
You may be a degenerate.
The thing is but you have to face the consequences of your decision, but it doesn't change your innate value as a person. And so you make a bad decision, you may go to jail, you may be a degenerate, you may be a inbred, whatever it may be. Ultimately, it doesn't change your value as a person at a spiritual level. Trey, I'm sorry I made the inbred comment.
Make sure that you are at least degenerate based off of your own standards, not to anyone else's around you. Because if you set yourself at the standards that everyone else sets you at, then you're not living your life necessarily. You have to, like Damon said, you're on your own journey. So like nobody else can necessarily tell you whether or not you're doing something right or wrong, because you're at a certain place in your life and you're headed in a different place. So for someone else to tell you you're doing something wrong, it really depends on where you're headed.
You're never going to fulfill other people's expectations. And in one of the videos I'll be releasing in the next 1 or 2 days, I literally just say that, you have to get out of the mindset of, getting approval and acceptance from others, and really strategizing and creating your own standard of values and expectations you have for yourself. This is your life. It's your video game. You get to say what level you want to conquer next. It's all about you. And, it's a matter about, whether or not you want to let people get in the way or not of what you want and truly aspire to. You're going to stay in the same place forever if you let people tell you what to do. If you just go along with the political views of others or what other people are saying, you need that, analysis in your life. You need to understand and reflect on, what actions you want to take and what thoughts you want to think about. And this all in turn creates who you are, the things that you receive in the outside world, you synthesize, and that makes your mindset. So it's really important that you understand that who you surround yourself with and who you vote for and what you want for your own life and for others really creates that mindset, on your direction in life.
Right. So everybody, if you disagree with Daniel, unfriend him on Facebook.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's basically what he's saying.
Block him.
Clap for Daniel.
Get him out of here.
Every election year, people lose friends on Facebook.
Yeah, it's statistically proven.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. You disagree with me, I rule you out. Like, why didn't you guys work that out in the beginning when you guys started getting to know each other? Why do you?
It's called the friend cleansing.
Yeah, and I can understand if they're not actually random people added to you on Facebook, but seriously, come on, guys. It's ridiculous. I have friends that are liberal, hardcore liberal socialists, and I'm the complete opposite. Yet somehow we still get along, which I don't even.
Wait, are you saying that you guys are still friends?
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
Seriously?
I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. What's the deal, right?
It's a miracle.
I don't even know how I'm still friends with Daniel.
We made it work. We coexist. He's orbited around my planet, and now he's just there, circling.
Being friends with Daniel isn't a walk in the park. All right, so
we need an ENTJ in the White House.
Yeah, we need something in the White House, and it's
called an ENTJ, ENFJ.
Daniel. You might as well just say it's called me.
Yeah.
Yourself, as in it's called Daniel.
It's called Daniel.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap up this call here in a few minutes. If you guys have any questions in the audience, I'd love to hear it. I want to make sure we respect you guys' time, and we want to do this on time. So I'm reading through it to make sure there's nothing left here, you guys. And Benjamin, let me just tell you who you should. Why are you telling me who I should vote for, Benjamin? You missed the whole first part of this chat. Basically, I told you I'm not telling you who you should vote for. So we're not turning into CNN because CNN is biased on the liberal side. So no, we're not turning into
Clinton News Network.
Clinton News Network, yeah.
Exactly. So no, we're not turning into CNN. So we got somebody that says we need to bring back communism. All right, Scrotus. That's an interesting name there, Scrotus. Well, I don't know about bringing back communism, but yeah. So let's just we're not gonna. I don't know. That's not even related to this particular topic. All right, guys. So it looks like you're all being goofy. We're gonna leave the chat open for a little bit, but we are gonna end this call. So hopefully we'll catch you guys soon and be on for next week. Let me close out this with a few things now. I want you guys to know that if you haven't joined the forum or live chat, which I always say, try to always say, is join those things, get involved with our community. We'd love to hear you guys' input. Give us suggestions, get on our mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list, you're not going to be kept updated with our newest releases and things we got going on the back end. And trust me, we got a lot of stuff going on the back end. So guys, get involved.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. All of us are working around the clock. We're very tired, as you can tell. We've been hustling it as much as possible. Blake has been crying at night, trying to get everything done. And now he feels powerful again because he put on his suit. He's back in the game. So. Yeah, and Daniel, on the other hand, he's just Daniel. And Trey, we're just making sure that Trey's back on and back into reality as much as possible because he last live show he was eating his arm, and the one before that he spaced out, and he's probably spaced out the majority of time on this particular one as well. So that being said, Trey is starting a live series. I don't know if it's live, but he's starting a series. He's going to be doing a lot of the old Trey Farrell stuff, but in his new persona, Trey the INFJ. And so he's getting involved in that, and he's going to be producing a lot of new insights for you guys. So if you're interested in doing that, stay tuned on MBTV. Daniel's releasing a new series as well. And obviously, I'm wrapping up the cognitive function series. If you haven't seen that,
MBTI and dating and relationships.
Yeah.
And who knows, there might be a new series conjured up by.
We have a Patreon. If anything helps us out, we are literally overwhelmed with the amount of work we have to do to keep producing content and keep escalating the quality of our content to making sure that it meets you guys' standards. We appreciate all your feedback, and we appreciate any donations. It's patreon.com/MBTV. And so, guys, if anything helps, $1, $5, 1 cent, I don't care. Just, if you really like our content, we really appreciate it. Like I said, it's not required, but you guys, we would love to have any contributors. You get little special perks being a patron of MBTV, and we do monthly meetings so we can keep you guys in the loop. So make sure you vote on Tuesday. All right, get out there and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I'm not going to unfriend you. I'm not going to dislike you. It doesn't matter to me. You're people with your own perspectives.
Stay present. Stay present. Work on yourself. Be in the moment. Learn from others through debate, and vote Janelle 2016.
That's about right. And stay on the Janelle. That being said, we'll see you all later. Take care.